If I were an archer standing before a Nord and a Thalmor, and had but 2 arrows in my quiver, you might ask me who I'd shoot first, and I'd tell you, I'd shoot the Thalmor twice. Make it quick. You have something to say. Well, save your breath. The way I see it, you don't have much more of them left. It wasn't a threat, fool, but it can be. You seem tired is all. Out of breath. Is that right? So you're a fool and a liar. Good to know. What you consider a fight, or even a war, is nothing more than a brawl between drunken louts over spilled drink. A great swordsman's talents are wasted in a war. Stray arrows, trebuchets, accidents. Many great warriors have been felled by the blade of chaos. One can't even trust his own side in the haze of war. Who's to say who's friend or foe, when your eyes squint through guises of dirt and smoke? Like your queries, they range from the utterly pointless to the completely meaningless. Why do you defend that who would spit on your face for entering their land? Sovngarde is no different than Cloudruler Temple, a great hall of great fools who no longer walk this plane. Again, your narrow mind fails you. One can loathe more than one thing, and more than one people. If I were an archer standing before a Nord and a Thalmor, and had but 2 arrows in my quiver, you might ask me who I'd shoot first, and I'd tell you, I'd shoot the Thalmor twice. Their presence is thin here, and their embassy on the other side of the province. From this perch I can track and kill their justicars by the threes, as the Thalmor are too much of cowards to face me alone. There's a stag that passed through here, white as a summer cloud. The hunters think it would look better in red. Fools all become heroes when their opponent is a helpless beast. Akaviri, forged in a dragonland, is a sword and armor of the blades, sworn to the service of the true emperor. But know this, my sword serves no one. You could be Tiber Septim reborn, and I'll still send you back to the Divines with your head in your arms. I kill Thalmor not for revenge, but to survive. I'm no blade. The Order died the day they chose not to acknowledge the Emperor. Only the strong have the right to be masters of their own destiny. Without the Empire, the Blades are just a guild of half-wits playing dress-up. Like fools, they hold themselves up in their temple, like flies in a jar. All the Thalmor did was turn it over and cut off the air. If the Emperor looked in the eyes of the 100 heads in that cart, you would have seen half of them were malnourished and on the brink of starvation. 100 heads of 100 fools. I seek no vengeance for those who can't save themselves from a flock of robed toads. True. The one I killed to gain this armor was indeed a blade, a master of the dual sword technique, and my mentor. He was a man of 40 years, and I no older than a dozen. When I first bested him in single combat, he was still my better, and our bodies would never be at an age where I could prove otherwise. At 16, my mentor had exhausted his use to me in terms of body. I would have granted him death right then, if not for the secrets his mind guarded. The Way of the Nine. Stances and techniques derived from the teachings of the Divines. That was his legacy, and his gift to me. His only pupil, but only when I was ready. A phrase thrown around by masters of all disciplines who wish to teach their pupils the value of patience. What I wasn't ready for, and never would be, was religious nonsense with which he dressed the art of the kill. Now as I enter my prime, I search for the lesson that escaped into the void when we last crossed our blades. Like most fools, you needed divines to guide you, for your own decisions lead you in circles. Those who are not fools trim the fat and absorb only what they need. Aktosh, Depella, Julianus, Kainereth, Mara, Stendar, Zenithar, and even Talos. My blade cuts heaven and earth with the liturgy of 8 divine, and if the 9th stands at the bridge between life and death, then I will walk it through the eyes of my enemies, my blades coated in their blood. I confess, I've killed enough Spriggans to start my own sawmill. I could kill you too and sell the bone meal to my farmers. Cyrodiil, fool, from the steps of Cloudwilla Temple, from whence I came before that. No one knows. The blade who had left the service found me as he descended the steps. To him it was a sign from the Divines. In truth, it was just a cowardly mother, waiting for the opportune time, and a man with forlorn eyes. Having left the Order, his eyes were indeed tainted with sorrow, and for that he pitied this kitten when he should have abandoned it. It was his newly discovered faith in the workings of the gods that inspired him to develop the skills for which I'm the caretaker. The world is full of such tales of fate and coincidence. That's what we burn into our memories. And all the other instances. Every day we live without incident. Those moments are never ascribed to the laziness of the gods. Just forgotten. A dragon roosts in the hills to the south. Having just gained life, It's not eager for death, it avoids my steel. You are a simpleton to assume that I am only drawn by death. Life too flourishes in this hold. The garden of ferns, thistle, and mountain flowers that grows in this hollow column stills my blood and allows me to meditate at night. The hunter's camp at the mountain top affords me a view of the land. On clear nights, the bright necklace of stars. You will understand little of what I speak, and much of it is of no practical use. But facile metaphors tossed around by dying man. But I will enjoy watching your brow twitch in confusion as I pass his words on to you. Take, for instance, Debella, the god of beauty. She stands nude, arms raised, cupping a golden flower, pouring cool water over her supple breasts. But here beauty is artifice. The stance is seduction. The blade raised in the right hand glints like the midday sun, bewitching your eyes while its partner lies in the grass. Akatosh, the dragon god of time. And what's battle but timing? No different than a bard's tune. Dance to the beat of a throbbing heart. The stance of Akatosh is an offensive position. A series of flurries that disrupt one's timing and rhythm. It's designed to stagger an opponent and end the fight quickly. But should you fail, you will fall to your own exhaustion. Standar's Mercy, the only technique of the 9 that utilizes a single blade and a single cut. As two warriors pass on the road, the blade is drawn from the scabbard and returned in a single motion. 20 paces later, a red gash will appear on the victim's neck, no thicker than a cat's hair. 30 paces later, and the gash will form a crescent, as pearls of blood trickle from the wound. 50 paces, and the line has run full circle, the blood dribbling onto his collar. The victim reaches for his neck, and upon touching it, his head topples over. So 51 paces, traveler, from where you stand. That's where you can exhale. Talos, mortal man ascended to the divines. The front foot faces the opponent, just as Talos faced the armies of men. The back foot faces the rear to the invisible plane of the 8. 2 swords, pointed north and south, forwards and backwards in an open stance. If you only see the mortal man, you'll neglect the hidden divine. The stance of Kynareth, both blades pointed upward toward the sky, power sacrificed for stealth. Just as we know not from where the rain falls, the blade's vertical position masks its angle and its target. The embrace of Mara. Both blades held out horizontally to create the illusion of an opening. Love too can be a source of bait. In this case, the love of blood. And Mara's blades close faster and hold tighter than any trap. Julianos teaches that from one thing. Know 10,000. Study closely what is distant and look from a distance at what is close. Bah. Garbled poetry and peasant wisdom. Unnecessary layers of depth that belies what is the simplest of all truths. It is easier to kill a one-armed foe than one with 2 arms and a sword. The stance of Julianos is designed to disarm. Quite literally, in fact. The tip of the blades nearly scraped the ground, sweeping upward to catch the crook of the elbow where the joints meet and the flesh is exposed. Zenith, right foot facing east, left foot facing north, swords crossed in a defensive position. When braced together, 2 blades are as resolute as any shields, and the winds of Zenith with a shift for those who labor and endure. It snowed that night when it should have rained. My mentor looked at the sky and said Kindereth was all out of tears. And I said, Kindereth does not cry for fools. We drew our swords and dashed through the trees, our feet rapping against the snow. The night before I had chosen my stance. While most would use the flurry of Akatosh, the technique is too violent. I could kill my mentor and lose sight of the very thing I sought to learn. And in the spiritual sense, the father does not come before the son. It was the defense of Zenithar that shielded me from his attack. If I saw both his blades as swords and not shields, I could parry, if not kill. Our blades clashed, but made no sound, muffled by the snowstorm. His swords came at me from all directions, but I kept my eyes on his feet, or more precisely, the tracks he left in the snow. There was a pattern there, if only I had more time. To Akatosh, I went for the flurry and the kill. Yet when I saw his blade rise to the block, I hesitated, only to see that very blade run me through. It was then that he revealed the true essence of the technique. I assumed he moved to protect his life, when his stroke came for my death. But the blade missed my heart by the width of a cat's hair. I made no such mistake with his neck. Just like that, it was over. I dropped to my knees and reached for my potion as his body drowned in a cascade of snow. I tossed the half-empty bottle beside his severed head and said he could have the rest. When he didn't respond, I couldn't help but laugh. All of it, the tracks, the blood, and his legacy, washed away in a tide of white. Just like that, it was over. I dropped to my knees and reached for my potion as his body drowned in a cascade of snow. I tossed the half-empty bottle beside his severed head and said he could have the rest. When he didn't respond, I couldn't help but laugh. All of it, the tracks, the blood, and his legacy, washed away in a tide of white. Be gone.
I'll see you.